The base is dropped on a beautiful Monday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia. Soccer Down Here is live May 27th, special holiday edition. So if you are at home, if you are trying to find something to do before, I don't know, maybe you're going to watch the richest match in world football. Is that what we're going with as the official tag?
Yes, I believe that would be accurate, sir, yes.
Yes, Aston Villa and Derby County, they kick off in about an hour from Wembley. $200-something million is what's on the line there, essentially, for what they'll make next year just by existing in the league that they're in. That's some pressure, just a little bit. Just a little bit of pressure. We'll keep you posted on that. That'll kick off about the midpoint of our show. We're going to have Jay Riddle on as well at 10 o'clock with his new Twitter account in tow. We've at least found him outside of Twitter jail. I guess if you're completely in Twitter jail, you can't even create a new account, but either Jay's in semi-Twitter jail or he was able to find a way around it with good Twitter lawyers. I don't know.
Maybe he aliased himself into another account.
Well, no, that's the thing is, like, people, when they get really banned from Twitter, like, they get banned. And if anything pops up that is from them, that gets banned too. Like, there's real Twitter bans, and then there's, I think, the maybe it's above misdemeanors in Twitter world.
A Twitter felony?
Jay created. No, it's I don't know if it's a felony. I don't know what the Twitter crime code is. I don't know how it ranks, because there's a new Jay Riddle on Twitter, and it is the real Jay Riddle. I wasn't sure when it first popped up. I had to make sure because, I mean, you can't be following a fake Jay Riddle. That's not good.
No, that'd be bad. That's bad form.
So I had to make sure it was the real one before I followed, and it is the real one, and we'll talk about Jay and his battles with Twitter and Celine Dion and the rest. Well, I mean, Celine Dion's not sitting there trolling on Twitter to say, oh,
the greatest Twitter account in all the world.
Ban him. I don't think Celine really cares.
Ban Jay Riddle. From the greatest Twitter account in all the world.
I'm going to assume not. I'm going to assume that there are people who represent Celine Dion's interests, or record companies who are not even worried about what Celine Dion thinks about Twitter. It's we'll get all that at 10 o'clock. But Atlanta United lost in Utah to Real Salt Lake. It was 2-1. Let's hear the highlights from that in case you missed it from the 92.9 broadcast with Mike Conti and me.
Here's a good ball by Rusnak, picking out Saucedo on the left wing. He'll dribble in on Parkhurst now. Overlapping is Krylock. Here's a shot from distance, score! Saucedo from just outside the box. And Atlanta United has done it again. They've conceded the first goal, which has been fatal for them all year long. Here is Pity Martinez, 40 yards from goal on the near touchline. Played down the middle to Escobar, right side of the box. His cross for Joseph. Score! Atlanta United has equalized in the 79th minute. Savarino stepping back into the center of the park, finding room, dribbling through traffic. Rusnak again, this time letting it through to Brooks Lennon on the left side of the 18. Brooks Lennon dribbles in, top of the 18, gets through traffic. It's going to roll back to Toya, back further now to Louise. Louise will play it up to Savarino. Savarino dribbles around, one-man turn, shoots, scores! Golazo for the game winner. Nothing to say.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of nights. Two outstanding goals, and Atlanta loses to Real Salt Lake. Let's talk about the first one. We'll take it in chronological order. It was really similar to what Bofo Salcedo did the previous week. It's something we talked about all week, about Real Salt Lake's wingers cutting inside and looking for their own shot. What made this goal, though, two things. The ball from Albert Rusnak to switch it and open things up. It was a brilliant ball from the touchline on the near side all the way to the opposite touchline, and Salcedo was then able to control. But it was the late run from Krylock, Damir Krylock, doing the kind of unselfish work there, where he makes a late run to the outside to overlap. If you go back and watch the goal, Parkhurst was 1v1 with Salcedo up until that point. When that overlap happened, Parkhurst had to pass off Salcedo to Lorenowitz. In that transition is where Salcedo had the time to line it up and shoot. It's a brilliant run, and the run is what unbalanced Atlanta's back line, and they didn't snap into it quick enough, although I don't know if it's really possible for them to have done that unless they'd just been tighter to begin with. And that's tough to do when you're dealing with a guy in Bofo Salcedo who just scored the goal the week before, cutting across and doing this. It was a really well-worked goal by Real Salt Lake, and I think in some of the postmortems about this match, John, the quality of the goals that RSL scored has been kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah, and as you were breaking it down, I've dialed it back up and am almost doing a Zapruder-ish analysis of looking at it. And from the press box side, it starts with Atlanta United having a defensive advantage 4-on-3. Then the big switch happens, and it's Salcedo and Krylock 2-on-1 over at the far side. And then you see Parkhurst. Krylock overlaps. Parkhurst takes, and then there's that opening that's created as Lorenowitz is there for goal number 1, and just that little bit of space. And on the Unimas broadcast, they mention that it is pretty much a carbon copy of what happened the week before. And you can't, I will sit here and put my hand up and sit there and go, quality, absolute quality on goal number 1. And it was once again well worked by RSL to get that first goal on the board in 36 minutes.
It's a good goal. I mean, flat out, it's a good goal. Atlanta didn't transition well enough after the run from Krylock and the big switch from Rusnak. You can't give that easily, give him that space to hit that ball. But, so that happens. You get into the second half, and we're wondering what kind of subs you might see. Everyone went into the locker room with the team at halftime, so they weren't going to make a sub immediately after the half, and I think that was to talk about strategies. I mean, first half, Atlanta looked sluggish. They looked very sluggish. The best chance was a Julian Gressel shot from really no angle that Raimondo couldn't hold. He had to kind of knock it away. It was a well-hit shot from Gressel, but low percentage. And that was really your first half. So, okay, how are they going to change it going into the second half? The substitutions came right around the 60-minute mark. It's Pity Martinez and Franco Escobar. Pity was pretty good in this one, I thought, and Franco was outstanding in this one going forward, and the two of them on the same side of the field gave you a definite spark, and that's something that was noticeable to me, is that Pity Martinez was on the right side for the first time in any extended period of time. And one, that gave him the ability to cut in on his left foot. Two, it had him combining with the other fresh player in Escobar. And it was their combination that got Atlanta back into the match. It's a good ball from Pity. Franco takes it even better and plays it into space and puts in a different cross. And this is something that watching this back has kind of stuck with me a little bit. You've seen the crosses from Atlanta United this season have been generally either low and hard across the face of goal or kind of floated in, really not to anybody in particular. This one was definitely played for Joseph Martinez to get to, but it was also played for him to get to. it wasn't played low and hard across the face of goal. It was played with a delicate touch from Escobar into that near post where Joseph had the angle, had the run, and is able to beat the defender to the spot and beat Raimondo. Escobar and his impact on this team, and specifically in this game, hasn't been talked about enough. Franco Escobar was the perfect substitution here, and his fresh legs gave Atlanta life in the second half.
And looking at the goal-scoring play, Escobar initially lets the ball go through from on the switch. He lets the ball come to the near side, and PT gives it back to Escobar for the cutback pass, and Joseph gets that opportunity. And so I think that, and as I sit here in live analysis of looking at it, you see RSL drawn to Escobar, and then they get caught, and that opens the window for PT, and then again for Escobar to leave it for Joseph for the equalizer. So you have 78. So you're talking 18 minutes in, Escobar making that kind of impact and giving that opportunity for Joseph for the equalizer. But once again, you're looking at it from the idea of, okay, RSL's initially drawn, Escobar lets it go through, and that creates that window for PT and then Escobar to combine. So I think that, you're looking at those two guys that were subbed in instantly making that kind of an impact for Atlanta United for the equalizer there in the 78.
And then at that point, you got to shut down and get out of town. It got a little open there at the end. Atlanta had some chances. Real Salt Lake had some chances, but as the game came down to its conclusion, you've got to get out of there with a point, and you can't give up another goal. And that was a big issue with the way this game concluded. Now, look, I don't know what to say here, because no matter how I'm going to explain this, people are going to say that I'm making excuses or excusing things away or whatever. I'll tell you what I think about what happened. Eric Remedi made a bad decision in trying to play a ball through for Joseph Martinez deep in stoppage time. He tried to play it through on the ground, and it was cut out and gave RSL a chance to break. That was one mistake here, and that was a big one, because if he plays that over the top, if you want to give Joseph a chance to run and find something magical, all right, you've got a 1v1 there with Joseph running with a defender. It's worth a shot. You got to play it in the air, so if it's overhit, if it doesn't find Joseph, it's going out for a goal kick. If you miss it completely, it's going out for a throw. It might get headed away, and you're going to be able to get out of town if that doesn't find Joseph. Playing it on the ground gave RSL a chance to break. Then there wasn't a foul at midfield. That was a really awkward situation, and I need to see the whole broadcast back with sound, because there was confusion about right at midfield. It looked like Atlanta was trying to foul, and Frank de Boer talked about it afterwards, that he was asking for the team to foul. He wanted a foul right there, because you're right close to the 3 minutes of stoppage time being up. If a foul is called there and you don't let the kick be taken quickly, then they're probably only going to be able to just lump it into the 18. You have to head it away. That's it. Either one of two things happened, and the broadcast was not clear from what we were able to look at on Twitter sitting at the airport. It was foul. It looked like maybe a foul was called or advantage was played. If a foul was called, RSL didn't stop the play to actually take a free kick. Ball was still moving. It was kind of off to the side. Nobody stood in front of it. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But Marufo's right on top of it, pointing like he's called a foul. So it was a very awkward situation, but no matter if the referee's not clear, whatever's going on there, you got to take a yellow card. You got to take whatever discipline you might get, and you can't let that play continue right there. If you have to tackle somebody with your arms and pull them to the ground, or hold somebody, or kick the ball away, or whatever it takes at that moment, you've got to do it, because you're on tired legs. And no, that's not an excuse. It's a fact. You're on tired legs. You've went through an 8,000-mile road trip. And, yeah, it has an effect on you. it wears you down. Team looked sluggish all night. I don't think that was because they were bored. I think it was because they were tired, because they're tired. You've got to foul there, hold up the free kick, do everything possible to not let that play continue. All right, you don't do that. Play cycles. You have another chance possibly to foul Brooks Lennon about 25 yards from goal. Not really what you want to do, but better than the play continuing the way it did. You're not able to do that. You don't do that. Ball pops back out to Everton Luis. He plays it over to Savarino, and at that point, you're 1v1. It's 1v1 with Savarino and Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, and Savarino wins the 1v1 duel, flat out. Beats LGP, turns him. Again, it's an unbelievable goal because it is another golazo, and that's true. It took 2 of those to beat you in this match, but that's what it is. And I've seen people complaining about LGP in this one. There was nobody who could help him. If you go back and look at it, everybody else is 1v1. And I believe it was Miles who was inside to the right of him. Miles can't leave Sam Johnson at that point because then all it takes is a touch splitting 2 defenders, and Johnson's in 1v1 with Gazan. You're going to take your chances and make Savarino beat a good defender 1v1 and find a shot from 20-plus yards. He did. You lost. Sucks, but that's how it went down, and I don't know. I don't know how people want to feel about it at this point because you lost to a team that's won their 3rd game in a row. You lost to one of the only other teams in the league that's won 4 of their last 6. Atlanta's one of those. And you did it at the end of this trip. If you were 5-2 in the last 7 and it was divided up and you won at Salt Lake, if you won 2, then lost 1. Even if you won 3 and lost 2 and then won 2, people would be feeling completely different. But the fact is, the record's still the same. The fact is, you were able to do some things on this trip that you didn't expect. And you're not in a bad spot. Got to get better. There are things to improve for sure. But it is not the end of the world that some people want to make this out to be. It is not.
And I mean, the way that I would probably try to break it down a little bit is think about, and this is probably a massive oversimplification, and I'm going to apologize up front for it. Think about what you do for a living. And if you had the same kind of travel associated with whatever you do for a living or whatever job you'd love to have for a living, and think about how you would be at those various stages of that travel, you'd be gassed. The boss has the same kind of travel and she's gassed. So, doing what she does and then comparing that same vein, absolutely, I would be beyond tired. I don't know how they do it as a professional athlete. So you win 5 of 7. You're right there, right in the middle of things. You still have matches in hand or a match in hand. And I think that you look at what's been going on with this team and having to claw their way out of the early season and having to deal with hemispheric competitions and other schedule compressions and getting to know each other and getting to know systems and things like that. I'm looking at this with the upside that is there and everything that they have accomplished so far to date and getting toward 2 home matches once again this week, midweek, weekend, international break. I'm looking at what has been accomplished instead of sitting here and going, what happened at RSL and that the sky is falling and things like that. The sky is far from falling, and they've done some tremendous things so far that other teams in the league have not been able to accomplish.
These last 2 games before the break are the tough ones. These are the ones that they're not make or break because of where you are in the season. They're games 14 and 15 of 34. But they're very important because they're home games, they're winnable games, but they're also against 2 teams that are not easy by any stretch. Minnesota United is a team that can score goals, is a team that's been better on the road this season than they've ever been in their lifespan. They're 3-4 on the road. They're a team that has lately figured out how to win tight games. They're winning some 1-0 matches right now. We would have never expected that out of Minnesota in recent years. It's not going to be easy on Wednesday night, which is not a completely short turnaround, but a shorter turnaround than you'd like. And then it is a short turnaround to Chicago on Saturday. Chicago is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They haven't won on the road this season, but you just never know what Veljko Paunovic is going to do tactically. It seems to be a new plan every week. Matt Doyle had a great breakdown of that in his weekly column that came out today. We wondered about that coming into the year because last year he had to, with all the injuries he had. I get it. He was trying to find something with the group he had because it changed week after week. This year he hasn't had as much of that, but it just seems like he can't help himself. It's just new tactical plan after new tactical plan. Nemanja Nikolic went to the bench for their draw against NYC, which is a decent draw against a good NYCFC team, but it was at home. You need to get full points there. I don't know what the Fire are going to bring, but they are a team that can hurt you on the day. So you've got 2 games that are tricky, 2 games that, you're not going to be fully recovered yet, and 2 games that you need 4 points out of at a minimum. At a minimum. You need 6. 4 you'll take and be okay with. Don't know if everybody else will be okay with it, but you take 4 with this schedule, you're going to be okay. Right now, on points per game, you are 4th in the conference, 1.54. Red Bulls are ahead of you on total points, but they've played 1 more match. You are behind NYCFC, who is 1.58, DC United 1.67, Philadelphia Union 1.71. But right behind you, Red Bulls at 1.5, Montreal 1.4, back down to Toronto in 7th, 1.31. It's a pretty tight Eastern Conference. Points are going to be at a premium once you get into the second half. And look, fact is Atlanta's going to have more scheduling issues like this. This is the nature of Major League Soccer in 2019. There was, I think it was in Doyle's column as well, talking about, I saw it on Twitter first, about the expected goals and how the league as a whole, across the board, is not meeting the expected goals numbers. It's the first time in the last 2 or 3 years that this has been the case. Now, it's a small sample size, not a full season, but you are underperforming XG. One reason I think you are is that Atlanta's had, I think, the toughest schedule with the travel factored in, but everybody's playing compressed schedules right now. When you're playing this type of schedule, you're not sharp. You're not crisp. You're not making the most of every situation. You're tired, flat out. And when the whole league is underperforming XG, I think that's a big reason because, remember, the other narrative is that the defenses are terrible in MLS. So if the defenses are bad, but you're still underperforming XG, what is it? I think it's that lack of sharpness. And I wasn't a fan of compressing the schedule to begin with. You know, there was all the talk about the playoff format and having MLS Cup earlier and this and that. Look, this is all being done because of the 2022 World Cup. That's a fact. That you want to get your MLS Cup early to get away from that, and you might as well do it now so you get used to it rather than having chaos down the road. When you start the season a little bit earlier, it'll be a little bit better. But this season, with this compressed schedule, you're going to get these types of results, and I think you're going to get these things happen. The Western Conference has been better, but it's still kind of tight up top. LAFC has been the best team by far, but Houston, Seattle, LA Galaxy, Minnesota, not a lot separating them either. Be curious to see what the second half brings, and really curious to see how teams try to manage tired legs as the year goes on, because it's only going to get trickier from here. Let's take a break, not our final break. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with more of your thoughts after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Overreaction Monday here on SDH, May 27th. What do we have on the Twitter timeline, John?
Daniel Price first in the barn this morning. Morning, y'all. And the apostrophe is in, and it is the apostrophe is in the appropriate place for second person plural.
Daniel Price knows y'all.
Overall, I'm not too thrilled with how we played on Friday. It was just sloppy. Tired legs and fatigue were the most important attributing factors. I'm sure Wednesday it will be much better. Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be better. It's a tough schedule right now. It'll be better because it's at home. And it'll be better because you're finally playing a team that does not have more rest than you. I'm going to go back once we get into this break and I actually have time because, I mean, the games are coming fast and furious for me too, and I'm digging into Minnesota already. I'm going to go back and see if I can figure out how often you get this type of run that Atlanta's been on where it was 5 games in a row where they played a team with more rest. It doesn't feel like that's a normal occurrence. It happens from time to time. It's something the league has to deal with from a scheduling perspective. Like it's, and I guess I'm making another excuse, but when you're playing a team like in the Red Bulls match, that's going to be a national TV game. It's going to be a big deal, and one team comes in from Vancouver, the other team didn't play in the midweek. Why don't you want that game to be a bigger deal with both teams at full strength? It's a big game. I don't understand some of these scheduling quirks. Did the Vancouver trip for Atlanta, could it only happen the time that it did? Was there not a way that Atlanta could have went on the road to Chicago or Philadelphia in the midweek and go to Vancouver later when it would stand alone? I don't know. I'm not in the room when those schedules are being made. I don't know all of the tricky aspects of it, but this part where you're 5 times plus the miles plus the travel, 5 times you're playing a team with less rest, it wears on you. And that's what it's looked like to me. And when you're getting quotes from Julian Gressel after training on Wednesday before going to Salt Lake City to say, I'd be lying if I said I was feeling great. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. It's just difficult, and you weren't good enough at RSL in that case. You weren't good enough on the day. 100%, flat out. You were not good enough to win that match. RSL is the better team. Did they dominate the match? No. You had chances. You made the subs at the right time, in my opinion. You got a goal out of it to get back into the game. could have had other opportunities, but you gave up too many. And that was the biggest difference, I think, in Atlanta United's performance compared to the rest of the season, is you gave up more than you usually do. Atlanta has been a really good defensive team, not in sitting back and defending deep, but in limiting the chances for the opposition. You were not able to do that against Real Salt Lake. And tired legs had a role in that for sure, but you also have to, I think, just deal with it and sit back a little bit more. And yeah, you might have to defend more and make it more of a defensive game, but that was the only way you were going to get out of there with a result. And then once you got to 1-1, I felt like, that was definitely what was on the cards, and you just couldn't see it out.
Then with the U20s going on, and Honduras and Uruguay, I believe, is at noon Eastern on FS2. Daniel says, also, Barco was superb for the Argentina national team. Man of the match for me. His press was great, and his defensive work was even better. Too bad that his career was ruined for coming to the MLS. On a more serious note, how likely is it we sell during the winter window?
You got to see what kind of offers materialize. But this U20 World Cup is a big deal, and teams scout it, and teams are looking for the next superstars here. And Ezequiel Barco is on that list after that goal he scored on Saturday. I didn't get a chance to see it live. I completely unplugged from everything on the plane. Usually on flights, I'm reading or studying or whatever, and coming back from Salt Lake, I was so exhausted. I watched Bohemian Rhapsody finally for the first time, and just completely, it didn't get the Wi-Fi, didn't want the Wi-Fi, didn't want to deal with anything, just wanted to just completely unplug. And then I get home and turn on the phone, and it's like, oh, wow, Barco scored an amazing goal. And I was so happy for him, because he took a lot of flack when he chose to come to Atlanta. And he took a lot of flack last year here. And he has risen above all of it and is playing amazing soccer right now. And to score a goal like that at a World Cup, it's a moment that'll be with him for the rest of his life and be with him for the rest of his career. And it'll get a lot of attention. So one game down for him, but Argentina looks pretty good so far in the U20s. Would love to see them make a deep run, and would love to see him to continue playing at this level. Now, is he going to go in the winter window? It's way too early to even go there right now. But I think his price tag just went up.
Yeah. Shiva. We're usually good at closing down the opponent's big playmakers, and we did not do that against RSL. Saucedo and Savarino both had plenty of space to work, and we know they can shoot rockets from distance. Am I overreacting? #overreaction Monday.
No, they did, and I think some of that is the legs, but also it's different type of playmakers than Atlanta's seen a lot of this season. It's two wingers who like to cut inside and cut across. It's not a true number 10 that I think Atlanta deals with really well. It's two very mobile guys, and this is a difficult time to be playing guys who are very mobile and want to make you run, because your legs aren't working like they normally are. So that is a factor here. But no, you didn't get it done. You didn't get it done against two guys who are in very, very good form. Saucedo, for me, is a future U.S. international. He's been outstanding since coming back to RSL. He's made Joao Plata expendable. And Plata has been a star for Real Salt Lake for a long time, and he's not starting now. Saucedo is getting those minutes. And Savarino, we know his quality. We saw a lot of it last year. It was just inconsistent. But that goal, that winning goal, the first goal was really good from Saucedo, and Rusnak and Krylak had a big hand in it. Second goal, that's just a straight-up 1v1 battle that Savarino wins at the moment that he has to win it. It's a big money play from him. And as good as LGP is, he couldn't stop him.
Let's see. Bart and Shiva went back and forth, and it was basically discussing what went down in the first segment. where Bart wanted to hear how you were going to excuse away the loss the second row, and then Shiva came back and said what she said, that your answers followed by logic and correct stats, stating the facts, not buying an excuse for the team. So that was pretty much the first segment.
Look, I'm just giving y'all my thoughts on the way I see it, and if that sounds like an excuse, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm telling you why I think the game went the way it did. I mean, that's trying to explain it. So if it sounds like an excuse, sometimes, sometimes you have to explain what happened and the way you see it, and I don't know how else to do that. Because, no, I don't think Atlanta's a bad team. No, I don't think that Frank DeBoer's a bad coach. No, I don't think that they play bad soccer. I don't think those things. Has nothing to do with, I call the games on radio. No, it has to do with I don't think those things are true, and I think the numbers back it up. But I don't know. I'm just going to tell you what I think, and if it sounds like an excuse, I guess I apologize in advance. But just giving you my thoughts.
Then Eric Schwartz, and this was something that we all kind of went back and forth in the DMs about. Eric says, how fun is it going to be to welcome T. Grace to the Benz in August?
Well, they're not there yet. They're not there yet. Why are we thinking they're there? They got to beat Club America first.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what Eric thought that it was over.
No. Well, you need to chime in because I think you thought it was over too, eh?
I did too. I thought it was done.
That's what I thought. No. Remember the let me pull up the explanation. The Campeón de Campeones match is in July. That's the Apertura and Clausura winners. Remember, they have 2 seasons in Mexico.
True.
So,
yes.
Club America and Tigres, that is your Campeón de Campeones match in July. You're playing one of them in August. Either way.
So then let's expand that. How fun is it going to be to welcome either Club America or Tigres to the Benz in August?
Either one's pretty good. I tried to watch most of the game last night. I did get through it. I didn't fall asleep before the game was over. But, man, my eyes were getting heavy by the end of it. León was really, really good. They did everything you can do without scoring a goal. One, Nahuel Guzman, the goalkeeper for Tigres, was outstanding. And 2, it was just one of those nights that sometimes happens in this game that will drive you insane, that you feel like you could play for 2 more hours after the final whistle and you still would not find the back of the net. It's just that day. And León could not have that day in that match, but they did. So Tigres survives, 7th title for Tigres in let me get the time span. 7th title in recent years for them in the last decade. Now remember, they do have 2 titles a year, so that's 7 out of 20, not 7 out of 10, but still
35% of the time.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Tuca Ferretti is one of the best managers in the hemisphere. No question about that. And Tuca and Piojo Herrera in the Campeón de Campeones Cup. Ooh. That's going to be a fun one to match. And then whoever comes to the Benz, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good day in August when that match happens. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Tuca Ferretti, one of the best mustaches in the hemisphere.
It's really good.
Stunner comes in this morning with the discussion that we've had in the first 40 minutes, and he says MLS is undercutting overall league quality when combining tight roster caps, schedule compression, continental travel, and poor travel logistics.
Yeah. Oh, Stunner's 100% right. I mean, look at what Sporting Kansas City's had to deal with. They've had the injuries, but you don't have the roster room to effectively do some of this. So, and then the cap affects it too. You don't have the roster quality to do some of this, and then the travel, and then the schedule, and then all of it. And yeah, it has an effect. Games have felt kind of sloppy as a whole, and that's a shame because the overall level of quality has improved dramatically over the years in Major League Soccer. But when you're doing this to these guys, it's really, really difficult. And you get lots of hamstring injuries, you get lots of calf injuries, you get lots of quad injuries, just playing and then flying and then playing again on short rest, it does a number on your legs. It does. So I'm with Stunner 100%. I really think this next CBA is critical for the league on a number of fronts. The flight options have to be different. And if teams opt to fly commercial, they opt to fly commercial. That's fine. But if teams want to charter, they should be allowed to charter. And especially when you get into these types of situations like the schedule Atlanta's had. I mean, Atlanta chartered to Vancouver. But if you could have, for example, if you could have gotten home after the Red Bulls match, which was the original plan, because remember, that was a 1 o'clock kickoff originally. If you'd been able to get home Sunday night, have an extra day of recovery, of prep, of whatever, you weren't able to do it because the game got moved back to 5. That's that type of stuff. I mean, if you're not limiting charters, that would have been one. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. You're chartering after that. You get home, you sleep in your own bed. You get up, you go into the training ground, do whatever recovery work you need to do, and then you can have a training session on Tuesday and one on Wednesday for this match against Real Salt Lake. Instead, you're gassed because you've got to travel on Monday, so you give the guys off on Tuesday because you just have to. They just need the time off. And then you have one session before Real Salt Lake, one real true training session. But then you train on Wednesday, and then you're flying to Utah Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday early evening. You have a walkthrough light training session on Thursday, and you're playing on Friday. I mean, it just doesn't lend itself to good soccer. So it's something that the league, the Players Association, everyone has to put their heads together and figure out the plan that's going to work. Because right now, it's not resulting in the highest quality of games that the league and the players deserve. So I'm 100% with Stunner. All of it combined, it's brutal on the teams right now that dealt with the CONCACAF stuff. And Atlanta's dealing with where they're at better than anybody else in that regard right now. Houston had Houston had the least amount of travel of anybody who was in CONCACAF, and they have handled it the best. Sorry, they've got the best record, but Atlanta's next. Houston is really one of the only teams in MLS that I think can comfortably navigate the travel associated with CONCACAF Champions League in the current format that it's in. It's the least amount of mileage. For a Toronto, for a Vancouver, for a Seattle, it's awful. And Seattle, go ask Seattle what they think about it last 2 years compared to this year where they played in CONCACAF and this year they didn't. Look at how they started the last 2 years compared to this year. There's a noticeable difference. They didn't have CONCACAF to deal with this year. It helped them a ton. Let's take a break, come back, more of your thoughts on Twitter at SoccerDownHere right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, May 27th. Taking your questions on an overreaction Monday. Atlanta United lost 2-1 in Utah to Real Salt Lake on Friday night. Man, it feels like forever ago, but I hardly know what day or where I'm at this point. So I don't know.
Well, there are those days that you sit there and you don't know what your name is, and then you look in your jeans and you go, "Oh, I'm Levi Strauss."
Yeah, that's about how it's felt here lately. It's been hectic. What else do we have on the Twitter timeline?
The Soccer for Good OG, Jill Robbins, comes in this morning, and she comments on your choice of movie. And when you unplugged, she goes, Bohemian Rhapsody, good call. Did you fight the urge to sing along? Hashtag movie Monday. Hashtag oops wrong hashtag.
I did. I did not sing along. It was really difficult not to on the Live Aid part at the end, the conclusion part, because that is one of the best live performances in music history, period, flat out, 100%. It was a good movie. I mean, I knew the bulk of the story. There wasn't really anything that I didn't know in it. But I thought it was good. It was a fun movie. And if you didn't really know the band all that well or didn't really know their story that well, I think you would have gotten a lot out of it. And I thought they handled the music really well. I thought the performances were good. I mean, the Live Aid stuff was amazing. The way they did the Live Aid performance at the end was amazing. It was really, really good. So I did not sing along and embarrass myself on the plane, but I was I really, really enjoyed it.
And for those, I mean, there is a video that's out there. I want to say it's on the YouTube where they do have the shot-for-shot comparison of movie versus live, and it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to give the movie makers a tremendous amount of credit for trying to match that as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, there was one thing that I did not like the way they presented it, and I had to go back and double check because I was pretty sure that they manufactured something in it, and they did. From everything I've read, everything I'd read previously, Freddie Mercury did not know that he had AIDS or was HIV positive before the Live Aid performance. That was after. So the way they presented it was that he knew and he told the band before they played, and I didn't think that was the case. Everything that I've read is that was not the case. So I didn't like that part of it, but they took some pretty big dramatic license with that.
Then Bart is busy this morning, so he's back with.
What's up, Bart?
All right, so here's his next tweet. He says, "We always find a way to somehow excuse a loss by this team. They were not good enough Friday, and to have even drawn level at some point during the match was pure luck. 4 days rest before the match isn't a lot, but not unreasonable." Before you start,
go ahead. No, let me start. Sorry. It wasn't 4 days rest before the match in a vacuum. That's number one. That's unfair to say that. Okay, well then the trip to Vancouver was gone by that point, and then all the other games in this run were gone. That's not how it works. It is something that is cumulative. And then the flip side is that no, they weren't good enough Friday. I said that. I'm completely with you. They were not good enough to win that match. But drawing level was not pure luck, because then that's not giving any credit when substitutions were the correct ones. Pity Martinez, Franco Escobar couldn't give you 90 minutes. They gave you 30. They had an impact. They created a goal. It was a well-worked goal. It wasn't a pure luck goal. You should have got out of there at 1-1. And that's where you feel like you lost a point here. You dropped a point. That part, no. Even with tired legs, even with the rest of it, you can't let that happen. So I hope that at least my thoughts on it are clear at this point. Yes, there is fatigue. Yes, the amount of games, the travel, all of it has had an effect. The 4 days rest before the match, yeah, it helped. You also had a travel day in there. You had to give a day off. You had 1 day of training going to RSL. You had to incorporate changes into the lineup. They didn't really work. They weren't awful. They weren't good. They were just kind of there. You were not the better team on the day. You got to 1-1 through a good set of play and good substitutions, and you didn't see the game out, and you lost a point. And you absolutely lost a point here that you had. That's how I feel about it.
And I know that this is going to continue the back and forth, but just my question for you, Bart, is when it comes to expectations, what would your expectation of this team right now be? And that's where I would like to. It's like, all right, where are you coming from right now? What would your expectation with this road trip, all of these miles, all of these short weeks, playing teams that have not had the same schedule aspects that you've had? What were you looking for out of this road trip? And I mean that by just asking an honest question. Honestly, what is your expectation level? And have it be obviously more than what you've seen, but what's your expectation level? That's the way I would ask it.
I thought you'd get more out of the lineup changes. Dion Pereira was fine. He did not give you the same spark that he did as a substitute at Red Bull Arena and as a substitute in previous matches. You didn't get that type of performance. He wasn't bad, but he played like a teenager making his first professional start at a first-choice senior level. He's had starts with USL Championship, and he had starts previously with Watford Reserves. But this was his first start at a senior team level. It showed. He deferred to others. He didn't really take people on as much as you would have liked. He did a lot of work off the ball. He worked hard. All that is really good. But he didn't give you that same impact that you hoped for. You didn't get that. Darlington Nagbe as the 10 100% did not work. And that was something that I thought maybe they would try. It just didn't work. Didn't work at all. It was ineffective. And I thought in the first half, as it went on, they were more effective when Nagbe dropped deeper to get on the ball and Eric Remedi actually pushed up higher. Just because Remedi was a little fresher, gave you a little more energy there. It still didn't really work, but that was what you had in the first half. Those two moves didn't pay off. You didn't have a lot of other options, really. Pereira earned the start with his play in recent weeks as a substitute. He earned the start over Justin Merrim. It's easy to play hindsight on it, but there was nobody that I saw saying Justin Merrim should start here, not Dion Pereira. I didn't see that one time. That's not a knock on Merrim. It's just Pereira was playing better. He was in line for the start. He got it. He didn't make a ton of it. He wasn't bad. He wasn't good. Outside of that, and if you're going to sit Pitti as the 10, you could have started Carlton. He was in the 18. He did not get on the field. We remember the conversation that Frank de Boer had about Andrew Carlton. Carlton went with the 2 to Swope Park, had a man of the match performance. That's, in my opinion, what got him back to the 18 with the first team. Didn't get him back into the starting lineup yet. Didn't get him back off the bench yet to play. You could have played him at the 10. You could have moved Gressel inside and started Pereira and Merrim. That's really your options there. All of them are coin flips because you haven't had a chance to see them in other games. And, again, to be perfectly honest, you haven't had a chance to train it either. That's what's difficult in this type of run of games. It's hard to make changes. You don't have training sessions to implement changes. You had a day to probably play Pereira, Gressel on either side of Nagbe. You had a day on Wednesday after a travel day and a day off. It's hard to get all of that in sync with the schedule. So changes are difficult at this time. make them, you're rolling the dice a bit. Didn't pay off. When you made your substitutions, and they were probably pretty well set up ahead of time. I mean, if you had come out and scored 3 goals in the first half, then maybe you can give Pitti the night off completely. Didn't get that. So this was probably always your plan. Bring in Escobar, bring in Pitti Martinez. They came on and they had an impact. And then you got tired as the day went on, and you couldn't see the game out. You needed to be better in those moments. You weren't. And you dropped a point. Flat out.
Question this morning from Trains. Well, it's first of several. After looking at Opta postesses. Nice. Upper plate not working this morning. Opta posts the number 24. Atlanta's Pitti Martinez has created 24 chances this season, the most of any MLS player without an assist. Unfortunate. #Unite and Conquer from Opta Jack. So Trains asks, is Pitti a problem or are other players underperforming? If so, who?
I will refer you to the 2018 conversation about Ezequiel Barco because, man, we had this conversation a lot about Barco creating chances and not getting assists. And, well, then they're not really creating chances, but he is. They're not being put away. Well, they're not good chances. Well, that's a whole different conversation. Pitti does have an assist. He did pick up a secondary assist here. So he doesn't have a primary assist. He got a secondary assist on this. He is among the league leaders in chances created per 90 minutes played. Joseph Martinez has not been scoring goals at the same rate. We've talked about that. There's nothing new there. He would tell you the same. That's the biggest thing. That's your primary goal scorer. So I'd have to go back through those 25 to see if all of them are to Joseph, and probably not. But how many of them are to Joseph and how many of them were good chances as opposed to half chances as opposed to long shot chances, I don't know off the top of my head. But Joseph hasn't performed at the same level that he has. You would probably be willing to give him some time based off what he's done over a 2-year period. And that's, I think, what I keep coming back to before we go to break and before we get Jay Riddle on. And we'll come back to Trains' questions. We'll come back to it. Don't worry. But when you're coming off of the 2 years that Atlanta United's had and the individual performances over the last 2 years, the jumping to conclusions of all of a sudden that players are not good or overrated or X or Y or Z about it, or the team is garbage, or what some of the reaction things, it's just surprising to me that it feels like all of a sudden 2 years of good play and good work and a title are washed away by a not blow the doors off start. And that's pretty much where you're at right now. You're 4th in the East in points per game. You have started to play better. Yes, you've lost your last 2, and we can talk miles, we can talk travel, we can talk all that. You've already heard it. This team is not as bad as some of the reaction to it is. Players, Joseph Martinez is not scoring a goal a game. No, he's not. That's very difficult to keep up for an entire career. You have these types of moments in it. He's had them before. He's performed before. Sometimes you should get the benefit of the doubt before the conclusions get jumped to so high. I don't know. That's where I'm at with it. Just because we've seen good play, I'm not saying that now that he's not performing, it's bad. But yeah, he's not scoring at the same rate he has. That's a fact. He's also not getting as many penalties. He's also, the team's not getting as many free goals. Those things are happening too. You're still getting results in general. And now you have 2 home games where you want to pick up more points because you've dropped some that you'd like to get back. It's an opportunity to get them back against Minnesota and Chicago. We'll see what Jay Riddle thinks now that he's back on Twitter. We're going to take a quick break and get him on the line. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com. or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Soccer Down Here, May 27th. Look, Friday night after the game, I saw this Twitter account pop up. I didn't know if it was real or not, so I didn't follow straight away because I thought maybe there was an imposter Jay Riddle with Jay Riddle's Twitter sentencing being handed down. So I had to wait it out a little bit and make sure, and then I think I saw either the unrelegated post or the Instagram post the next day and clicked the follow button. And we have found Jay Riddle out of Twitter jail. He is with us now from a golf course, I believe.
Yes, I am at a golf course, not golfing. Totally normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens.
Well, but as long as we don't hear somebody yelling "4" at the top of their lungs with you walking puppos.
I'm standing safely behind a net, it looks like. So I'm in safe distance from any rogue swings or slices or whatever you call it. And thank you for the refollows. Celine Dion assassinated my last account, and she is all powerful. So I have started anew.
I wasn't sure if Celine Dion created a fake Jay Riddle and then gonna try to have me buy things or something. I didn't know what was going on, so I had to work that one out and make sure.
Absolutely. So back and ready to roll.
All right. So what'd you think Friday night? Not the most fun night of Atlanta United soccer.
Yeah, I was actually up there with Devin, Tanner, and Kelly. We went up there to visit with the Cooligans and the MLS studios.
You're talking New York first. We okay. Yeah,
you're talking. What are you talking about?
I was talking about Friday night with Salt Lake.
I'm sorry. It's all a blur. Don't you realize? But yeah, no. Let's talk Salt Lake.
Let's talk there. Then we'll talk about New York for sure. I want to hear
very,
New York.
Very disappointing. Not something. Listen. I think everybody understands we've been hit with some ridiculous travel. RSL's always been a bit funky. We've pulled out results there in the past. It's a strange place to play, in my opinion, and it's just really frustrating because you feel like we've kind of regressed a bit, and whether that's due to Barco being gone and all the myriad of potential reasons. All I really hope is that with some rest now and coming back for a home match, that we can put out a kind of performance and an entertaining performance that we hope to get out of Atlanta United.
But all right, so then let's look at the road trip on the whole before we get into New York and the trip specifically, because that sounded like fun and we saw the pictures and we talked to Kelly about it and how she was marooned. But the road trip on the whole and what Atlanta United was able to accomplish out of it, when you look back at this string of games with schedule compression, with all of the travel, with hopscotching to both hither and yon on both sides of the planet, what are some of your takeaways from this run of games where Atlanta United's been on the road a lot?
I mean, overall, from a 10,000-foot view, I think the number of points garnered from this run is fine. If you had taken away the poor results we had at the beginning of the season, I think people would look through this from a prism of, we had a tough run of away matches and we've gotten a good string of points from those in the long run. So, I think we can't be too disappointed. I do have concerns though over, fitness of Tito and Gressel. Gressel just the last two matches just looked off pace, looked tired, not the sort of MVP type performances we're used to seeing out of him. And it's not just him either. It just seemed to start to take a toll. We know we've burned through all of our charter flights, which is a real frustration and something that I hope gets addressed, as Garber pointed out in the CBA.
They haven't. They haven't. Flights. No.
I thought is it one? Okay, so here, clear this up for us. So is a charter flight considered? We get 4, right?
You get 4 legs. So
legs. So how many have we used?
2, just the Vancouver trip.
Just the Vancouver trip? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 2 left, presumably saving for the playoffs.
Fall into that at all. So for one, CONCACAF games don't affect that.
Either way, I feel like
just
if
the Vancouver trip.
You start to wonder if we had more available to us, would we have taken more charter flights in this 100%, run versus having to reserve them for the later in the season?
Yeah, hold it right there because that's 100% it. Because you would have taken a charter back from Red Bulls. No questions asked. You would have taken the charter back to get back that night because you would have had the opportunity. On a 5 o'clock game, you're done at I think kickoff was 5:20, so you're done at 7:20. You shower, you eat, you get to the airport. You're going to land back in Atlanta by 11:30 midnight. You're going to get to sleep in your own bed. That's a huge difference. But you've got trips to Portland, you've got trips to Seattle, you've got trips to LAFC coming. And I believe they're probably going to use, I can't remember which one it is. I want to say LAFC, but I might be wrong. There's one where they come back and they play 3-4 days later at home. So you're going to charter back after that one. So you're not going to charter out, but you're going to charter back. And then you always want to hold one for late in the season, where if you're fighting for a playoff spot, if there's something tricky going on there, you need that extra little bit of rest. So, that's where you're at.
Yeah, so that's one thing, right? And there's out of a collective whole. But at the end of the day, I was just really, especially with ourselves, just really disappointed in the defending. That is just inexcusable to let that goal in. The funny thing is Jenny was kind of getting angry at me because I was yelling at the TV with all the space that we were providing at the edge of the box, which we did in the first 5 minutes as well. They got a shot off or two and just didn't happen to go in the beginning of the match, but it looked just the same at the beginning of the match as it did at the end of the match. And Parkhurst is standing off, people are standing off the ball, and I said, oh man, they're I had to be negative. I was like, they're gonna shoot and score, and then I think the announcer even started to say the same thing, and then of course the rest is history. So that was absolutely frustrating.
Yeah, on that final goal, that was 1-1 with LGP. I mean, after you needed to break up the play before. I mean, you didn't need to get it.
More yelling, situation. Foul him or something like that. Like,
yeah, of course, I couldn't hear that from where I was in the booth.
Where he says he was, but
no, there was something at midfield in the build-up, and it was so awkward. The replay I've seen of it. If it was a foul called, RSL took the free kick very quickly, and the ball was still moving. If a foul wasn't called and Marufo played advantage, Atlanta's got a foul there. Like, you can't, no matter what happens there, you can't let them continue to play that quickly because that would force them to play a free kick into the box, and there'd be no more time. I think the announcer was yelling shoot because you were, 20 seconds over the 3 minutes, and it's not an exact time. I think everybody should understand that.
Either way, the prophecy was foretold.
Yeah, I mean, but then that's the thing is, okay, if you are in a perfect window of rest and you're 1v1 with Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, if you're Atlanta, you like your chances. And he could not shut Savarino down in that moment. That was just, that's how it went down.
I mean, hypothetically, sure. I think this home match is much needed, and with this rest, so we can kind of see if these guys come back together and how they bounce back. And I do have faith that this rest will help improve, because I mean the amount of minutes that Gressel alone has had on his legs, and we saw the difference that Escobar made coming off the bench. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we didn't get, and one before I cut you off, John, sorry. After that game, and you mentioned Gressel, after that game was really the first time I had seen Gressel just completely and utterly exhausted. I mean, it's a gut punch of a way for it to go down, but Gressel walked like straight over towards the bench and just sat down on the end of the bench and sat there for probably 15, 20 minutes, just gassed, just had nothing in the tank.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. We have multiple dogs.
Like, what are we hearing? Okay. All right. To more optimistic things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. To more optimistic things. The trip to New York. I wanted to get into this with you because, last week we had Kelly Francis on, and she was still marooned in New York when we were talking to her. So she did her segment remotely instead of locally. But what was it like for you guys? Because we've seen the photos and we saw how you guys were able to kind of crash MLS studios and things like that. What was the trip like from your perspective, just to head up there into Red Bull's environments and things like that? What were some of your takeaways?
I think it's actually a. We met up with E as he goes by from High Press Podcast and New York Red Bulls Podcast, and we spent a lot of time with him, and as well as the Cooligans, and we spent some time with him also in the press area at Red Bulls Arena, tailgating as well. And at the end of the day, of course, the trip to New York City, all the other things were great, but Red Bull Arena is been on my checklist to go to for a long time, and it is a fabulous venue. I think if you take away the new stadiums like Audi Field and in Minnesota Lions and LAFC, I think it's the top place to go to watch a soccer match. For a quote unquote soccer specific stadium, it looks like the original spaceship from outside. People call Mercedes-Benz that, but it's very weird looking outside, but inside it's very, very nice. And the supporter section, you can hear them loudly. It's got those rafters over it. That and Mercy Park, Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City are fantastic venues. So I suggest that people try to get up there. But it was a learning lesson. We tried to dig in with E some of the reasons why he thinks that there's a lack of attendance and things of these nature. And out of all the things we kind of came up with, it wasn't until we were driving back from the match that I think it settled in, and the answer was pretty clear. In traffic to get back to New York City, it took us over 2 hours to get back. And there were no other sporting events going on, like no Jets games, nothing like that. That was just normal traffic trying to get across the George Washington Bridge and then trying to take back roads. So you could see the deterrent for people that don't live right near Harrison, especially if they live in New York, to go to the games. And it it created a level of empathy for me. I wouldn't want to do that every weekend. Are you kidding me? Sitting there, and I mean not moving. So that was an eye opener. But overall, just a great experience. Disappointing result, but I know you guys hashed over that with Kelly. So
that's why I can't figure out why they don't market more to the Jersey side.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Doesn't make any sense.
We know that there's a market right for the picking. We just look at what Breezes, just two guys that own an empanada shop inside the stadium can do with viral marketing and guerrilla marketing and stuff like that. And that's just two guys with no budget. Right. And so it's something you hope to see more of. They did add this sort of boulevard that play out off of Red Bulls, which is kind of right outside the stadium. And there's, things and guys juggling balls and stuff like that. And so that is attractive. That's something they did add recently, I think. So that's a nice touch. But yeah, I think there's still room for improvement.
I'll agree with you on the venue. It's my top 5, including the Benz, would be the 2 that you mentioned, Red Bull and Kansas City. I would include Stade Saputo and Montreal, and I would actually include Rio Tinto at RSL. It's beautiful, just with the mountains off behind it. I mean, it's that one.
Yeah, those mountains that they built were great. That was great.
Yeah, that was very cool. But no, just that's what I'm saying. The look of it, though, and not just I'm not just talking the venue itself, because honestly, like so many of them are pretty much the same. But the look with Philly and Real Salt Lake are both really cool. Like, it just has a cool vibe around it.
I've been to Chester. When they first built it, I saw them play Manchester United, and I think it's a gorgeous stadium there too.
Yeah, it's a really good look. Looking forward to seeing Portland and Bank of California later this year. Those are 2 that I haven't seen. I've been to games at CenturyLink. I haven't been to a Sounders game there in MLS, but I was at MLS Cup in 2009, and it's a great venue for it.
Yeah, there were at least
venues.
50. Yeah, and I do suggest, if you haven't gone to a match, pick just one a year. That's what I do. Just one big one a year, and go to it, a new venue every time. If you are a member of a supporters group, you can get tickets through them, or it's quite easy to find out through Reddit and other mechanisms, or you can reach out to me where the supporters groups sit. If you don't have a supporters group that you're in, but you want to sit near them, then you can find the section. And a lot of people did that at Red Bulls. There were another 20 people probably in the section next to the away section that maybe weren't in supporters groups to get access to those tickets. And so, you probably had 70 people right up there in that corner, just for the Red Bulls game. So Atlanta United fans continue to travel well, and props to them for continuing to do so.
Yeah, there were a lot of Atlanta United fans spread around Red Bull Arena too.
And New York has a lot of people, Atlanta fans in New York,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely kind of a national fan base feel at this point. All right, so a couple disappointing results. Where are you at in general, just about the season as a whole, and where it is now and your hopes for the rest of the year?
I mean, I'll put it this way: if the rest of the Eastern Conference were doing better, I would be more concerned. But I mean, I think there was a stat that went out this weekend that the West Coast teams were 6-0-0 against the Eastern Conference teams this past week. I think we're benefiting from some poor dip in form from other teams in the Eastern Conference. So I think we're being helped out there. So looking at the table, looking at the points we've garnered the last run, I'm not terribly concerned. If we continue to show the kind of inability to penetrate or making mistakes at the end of the game in a home match, after we've had some rest, those are the kinds of things that are signs of regression to me, and I'd start to get concerned. But we'll see. I'm kind of holding some judgment until we get a home match. We know how well we play in Mercedes-Benz, or at least we seem to play really entertaining soccer when we're there. So.
All right. So when it comes to unrelegated, now that there are 2 home matches before international break, what are you guys going to be doing this week? And then while we're watching the rest of the hemisphere go at it in Gold Cup, what are the upcoming plans?
So we have Queens of the South coming up next week. We didn't do our OG podcast last week. We just put out our podcast that we did with High Press Pod, recorded in Harlem, and so that was a lot of fun.
How cool was that?
Yeah, that was really cool. We did it in our Airbnb, and it was just a great general discussion. Just kind of talked with him about all things MLS and otherwise. And so that was cool. And yeah, so we'll be back on schedule. And I know we have some things coming up. Ricky Bebbington's coming up here on a Wednesday match very soon.
Yes.
To Mulch. And so we'll be joining her. I think there'll be some either Kelly or Jessica or some other, as well as some other female personalities and sports players, soccer players, and things like that, joining that broadcast live on NPR coming up as well. So that's very exciting.
You want to explain the whole Twitter thing for people who might not have understood how this all went down?
Yeah, so if you were following me on Twitter, apparently if you have an iPhone and you clicked on my name in the last week and you followed me, it may say that you were blocked, but that's not the case. That's just bad software development. In fact, it should say that the account was suspended. And what happened is about a week or so ago, in about a 24-hour period, I got 3 copyright strike emails, all related to Celine Dion songs that I had put to videos, even on tweet. One of the tweets was like a year old. and they decided to hit me for those. And Twitter automatically suspends your account if you have X number of strikes in a certain time. And I appealed it, and the robot replied back and said, "There's nothing we can do for you. You have to get the copyright strikes revoked." And I have no appeal because it wasn't my music. And even though millions of other people use those Celine Dion songs to big sports moments and things like that, I just got unlucky, and they decided to hit me for it. So I just went ahead and said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new account. So you can follow me at JAYW Riddle instead of JAY_Riddle. It's my middle initial. So yeah, go ahead and give me a follow. You were not blocked, I promise.
Man, I always wondered how that stuff went down. So there's just no hope of getting your old account.
No,
Yeah,
apparently.
no.
I mean, if I had a blue check mark, or I think if you have some status in the world of somehow, then I think that maybe you may have
Twitter
a channel
stroke.
to obviously use common sense and say, listen, okay, I won't post that stuff again. Let's not be ridiculous. But yeah, it's pretty it's pretty automated. It was clear that they just are going to go ahead and suspend it indefinitely. So yeah, we'll just keep an eye open. But for now, looks like it's done. It's RIP.
Oh man. Well, I'll try to
RIP
avoid
to
the
_.
Twitter cops. Do your best to avoid the Twitter police.
That's right. I will do my best. No promises, but
It's gonna be new J Riddle accounts every year. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, really.
I do it for the people, Jason.
Oh man, craziness.
That's strong.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time out of your dog walk.
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It's
Dodging golf balls, walking dogs, and talking to us. The man is multitasking.
Yes, he is. We're going to take a break right here. We'll be back with more of your thoughts on Twitter right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolensky of Apolensky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Overreaction Monday. Soccer Down here, May 27th. Let's get back into the Overreaction Monday hashtag, John. What do we have?
Okay, continuing the trains thought.
Yes.
And it's from the end of hour number one. Point taken that Red Bull's the only East team to win this week, and Atlanta missed an opportunity. Yes. So, final thought from trains. Did the RSL match highlight the importance of number 10 play? Was an Atlanta playing in an empty bucket formation, bereft of creativity? And there are more questions after that.
I don't think the idea was to play in an empty bucket because you had three. It's kind of hard to have three guys sit back, and that's not really how Atlanta plays, even when they're a little more defensive. So empty bucket would imply that no one was in that role. I thought Nagbe was in that role. He just didn't see the ball much, and it's not a comfortable position for him on the field for whatever reason. So first half, no, I don't think it was empty bucket, but it didn't work. Nagbe as the 10 did not work, and that was something that you would think would work better than it did. It didn't. Second half, it was Gressel inside as the 10, and Pitti was out on the right wing. That worked better, but primarily you played through the right side. That was where you were most dangerous. So you played through Pitti on that side and through Escobar on that side, making runs forward. So Gressel was central, but he wasn't a ball dominant attacking central midfielder, a ball dominant number 10. Does the RSL match highlight how did Trains phrase it? I want to make
the importance of number 10 play.
I mean, I think we know it's important, and I don't think it necessarily has to be traditional 10 play through the middle. I think we've seen that Frank de Boer wants Pitti Martinez as the 10 centrally a lot of times, and he wants Barco off the wing coming inside. They become interchangeable. I prefer Barco getting more of those touches and being the creative fulcrum, and that's the way I'll define more of number 10 play. It doesn't have to be central, but you have to have the right person on the ball the most in those situations. I think in the long term, it's Ezequiel Barco as that guy for Atlanta United. I think secondarily, it's Pitti Martinez. But I've been with Trains' comparison for a while that I think with Pitti, you can get him going more if he's out wide in a Nacho Piatti kind of role where he is not ball dominant. He doesn't need 80, 90 touches. He's getting 50, 40, 60 good touches as opposed to a lot of touches in traffic being harassed. Barco's a little better at that situation right now than Pitti is. And I think Pitti taking some of that pressure off of him and putting him in a wide position like he was in this one against Real Salt Lake, that can work, and that can work really well. You just didn't have anyone centrally getting those touches in key spots like you have with Barco earlier this season.
And then the final Trains question, who's to blame for the goals scored from outside the box with the set defense, no one-on-one with the keeper, ? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
First one, I mean, first off, both of them are outstanding goals, like flat out. RSL's expected goals was under 1, and they scored twice. Neither one of these goals were high percentage chances. That's 1. 2, first one, if you're going to put it down on one person, you're going to put it on Lorenowitz. That's a little harsh. Parkhurst passed Salcedo off because of the overlap from Krylock. It was the right decision. They weren't synced up exactly immediately, and that hesitation gave Salcedo the chance to take a shot from distance and score. Second one to me is a prime example of tired legs because you weren't able to break up the play earlier. You needed to foul at midfield. If De Boer was screaming foul, foul, foul at midfield, that was the right decision. You could have fouled Lennon and given up a 25-yard plus free kick. That would have been a little more difficult, but you could have done that. Once it broke to Savarino 1v1 with LGP, I mean, if you're looking for blame, that's the blame, is that was your 1v1 battle, and LGP lost and Savarino won. It's also, again, it's a goal from distance that is perfectly struck. You don't want to give those chances up, but those are the lower percentage chances that if you have to give up a chance, those are the ones you want to give up. But in your individual moments, RSL was better.
Michael Miranda from over at CM Prey says that half the starting lineup is underperforming, either because of complacency or because they do not fit the formation style of play. And then I'm guessing that there's a word in here that I can't quite understand from either typing or correct or talk to text. And also that the coach doesn't really know the kind of player he has. Either way, it shows on the pitch. Hashtag Vámonos Muchachos.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Go back through that one more time from the beginning.
Half the starting lineup is underperforming either because of complacency or because they don't fit formation or style of play.
Complacency, I don't see that at all. I don't think that's the case. They don't fit the formation. When this team is in the shape in a 4-3-3 of left back's been a rotating cast because you haven't had George Bello. You've had to deal with it. So a left back, Miles Robinson and Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, LGP on the left, Miles on the right, Franco Escobar on the right back. Midfield, I don't think you have the best six for the 4-3-3. Eric Remedi is your best option there, and he's been inconsistent. He's been good at times as the six. He's had some struggles as the six. I think he's a little better suited to either playing in a pair as a double pivot or playing as an 8. But I think he's your best option as the 6 right now. Nagbe with him as the 8. Pitti as the 10. Barco on the left. Gressel and or Tito, well, it's not and or, Gressel or Tito on the right, and Joseph Martinez. I think that is your best 4-3-3. Me, personally, I would flip Barco and Pitti, but they're so interchangeable, it really doesn't matter where they start because they're gonna interchange. I don't really care which one's the starting on the left. As long as Barco is getting touches centrally and Pitti is getting touches out wide away from traffic, I'm good with those. I don't think there's anybody out of position in that. Left back, you've had to play players out of position because that's just been the nature of it. George Bello should be your left back. He's been injured. That's the problem. Mikey Ambrose would have been your most like for like. He's been injured. That's another problem. Breck Shea has been inconsistent at left back, and Michael Parkhurst has been a trooper at left back, but he's not a traditional left back. So I think if you're looking for a part of the field that you have a player out of position, it's as the 6, because Remedi, Lorenowitz, neither one exactly give you as much as you need out of the 6 in a 4-3-3. You almost have to play 2 there, and either Nagbe sits a little bit deeper, which actually works for him, so you can get around it, or you play Lorenowitz and Remedi together, but then Nagbe's not comfortable as a 10. So I think it's harsh to say that half the team is underperforming because of complacency. I disagree with that. Or players out of position. I don't think there's that many players playing out of position. I'm just not seeing it.
And then the notion that the coach doesn't really know the kind of player he has.
Well, let's talk about that from a big picture, because that could be taken as a crack on Frank de Boer, that he doesn't understand for whatever reason. I disagree with that. But does he understand the complete capabilities of his roster and know every player inside and out? No. How could he? He hasn't been here that long. No manager does. Like, nobody. Pep Guardiola didn't know Bayern Munich inside and out before he got there. Pep Guardiola had an idea of how Bayern Munich would play. 1, it was out the window due to injuries pretty quickly, and 2, it was out the window because he realized, hey, I can do some different things here that I could not do at Barcelona because I have a different type of player here. That took time. That took, honestly, a full year to implement. It's the same at Manchester City. It's the same with any big manager who goes in and says, you know what, I have a way I want to play, but there are things here that allow me to do things that I didn't even envision, that I couldn't do at a previous stop because I didn't have players like this. That doesn't happen overnight, and I think it's incredibly unfair to think that it would. And the whole talk about, and I see this all the time, about, well, why don't you just play the way they did last year? You can't. You don't have Miguel Almiron. 100%. You can't play the way you did last year. You don't have a like-for-like replacement for Miguel Almiron. In 2017 and 2018, when Miguel Almiron did not start, or no, when he did not play flat out because he came on as a sub in some games. I didn't even factor those in. When he did not play, 2-2-2. That was Atlanta United in 2017 and 18. 2-2-2. He's a difference maker. and he gave the team an identity in being able to play and be lethal in transition. You couldn't do that with this group. You would not be nearly as effective. That's a hard fact to swallow, but that's a fact, I think. So I just don't think you could be as effective playing the exact same way. So you have to play a different way. And yes, Frank DeBoer needs to get to know his players better, and that takes training time, and that takes time just seeing things and feeling things and watching this group and finding those combinations. I think he is finding them, and I think bringing on Escobar and Pitti together in that game to change that game in Salt Lake is an example of that. So I think it's harsh to say that he just doesn't understand what he's got. That's a little too simplistic to me.
And then going back to the question that I asked to Bart back in hour number 1, it's like, okay, so what are your expectation? What's your expectation level? He says, I expect the team to be the best or one of the best in the league, so I judge them based on that expectation. The team looked flat and unable to score for about 65 minutes. The team hasn't looked capable to scoring consistently all season.
That last part's true. And that is, if there is a question mark, if there is a concern, that is it. I'm not taking it on Friday because I am crediting a lot of issues with the travel, with all of the other things going on, with the amount of games. All of that had a factor on Friday. In general, no, they're not scoring enough goals. 100%, they're not scoring enough goals. Before Barco went to Argentina's U20s, and even immediately after, you were still creating the chances. You're not scoring enough goals. You're number 2 in the league in shots per game. So you're getting shots. You're not scoring goals. You have 14 goals. It's not enough. It's not good enough. Defensively, you've been really good, and you're more organized defensively than you were in previous years. You're better defensively than you were in 2017 and 18, and so far that's been carrying you. But you've got to find some goals. I don't think it is some big complicated thing about the way they play. I think it's converting goals. I think that's where you're at right now, is you've got to convert the chances that you're getting. You've had chances that are chances you should be converting. Would you want to play more in transition and have less of the ball? I think it brings more risk into it. I don't think this team is necessarily built that way. I don't think you're getting the same types of chances that Miguel Almiron would create for Joseph Martinez in the past. I don't think those are coming. I don't think this team is built that way to do that from a roster perspective, not in the way they play. If you wanted to play that way, I don't think you'd be as effective. And I think you've had similar enough types of chances that you would expect to be getting finished. If Joseph isn't going to finish at the same rate that he has in the past, then it's hard to expect him to, because it's an unprecedented rate. It hadn't been done in MLS history before. I'm not talking just last year. I'm talking about the 2 years. Then somebody else has got to score goals, and it's either got to come from the wing, and that's going to be a Barco, a Pitti, a Tito, a Julian Gressel, or the 10. It's got to come from the other 3 of the front 4. And it's got to come consistently. So that's a huge issue. I'm with Bart on that. You've got to score more goals to be a top team. But right now, in points per game in the league, you are 9th. You need to be better than that. With the amount of talent you have, 9th is not good enough in points per game. You need to be in the conversation with the LAFCs, with the Seattles. Houston is 2nd in points per game right now. Can they keep that up? I think so. A lot of it depends on Albert Ellis. I think you need to be in that top 4 or 5. And they're not there right now. So got to score more goals. I'm with Bart on that. But I think taking Friday out and putting it in a vacuum is not really fair. As a whole, you need to score more goals. It's honestly that simple.
And then Bart wraps it up by saying, but I have to go referee State Cup now, so pray for my already charred forehead because Georgia Soccer won't allow refs to wear caps for this tournament.
Oh, you're done, Bart. Your head is gone. Aloe, go ahead and on the way, like stop at CVS and get the aloe and have it ready, like once you get in the car afterwards. And yes, all of the aloe on top of your head.
Well, and usually what I will do if I'm going to be spending substantial time outside is I will take the SPF 60 and just go ahead and massage it into my head going in.
You can do that too, but it's diminishing returns. I mean, do it. Like, don't not do it. But do that too, Bart. Like SPF 150 if you can, and do it
Does that
between
exist?
every game. Find it and do it between every game, but you're sweating it off. It's not going to stay. You're still going to get burnt. Get the aloe along with it. It'll help at least some.
John Nason says, yeah, exactly. John Nason says, should we not expect PT to adjust quicker than a teenager, parenthesis Barco closed paren, to MLS? Big money signings need to contribute immediately. Well, that's why they're big money signings. And what do you see the difference is to say Pozuelo? Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
Pozuelo hit the ground running, and what has he done since? It's
I
not that
believe
easy.
bupkis would be the term.
Yeah, it's not that easy. These are people we're talking about. They're not robots. And when you're going to a new country, you're going to a new set of teammates, you're going to a new manager, you're going to everything new. Some guys get it quicker. Some guys don't. It's not about comparing it to others because there's only one Pity Martinez. So it's so similar because with Barco, there was a lot of like, oh, he's not adjusting. Oh, he's not good. He's overrated. He's not worth the money. But he's creating chances on a rate that's among the league leaders. But that doesn't mean anything. Pitty's doing the same thing. Honestly, even more than Barco was at this point last year in terms of chance creation. So, I don't know. He's a pro. He's going to put his head down, and he's going to be fine. I'm honestly not worried about it. But in the bigger conversation, you need him to get you some goals. You need Tito or Gressel to get you some goals. And you're going to need Barco to score some goals because you can't expect Joseph Martinez to score 30 goals a year every year. It doesn't happen. I mean, unless you're Robert Lewandowski and you do what he's done over the last 4 years with Bayern, which is unprecedented. Like, that's the type of rate you're talking about. Somebody else has got to step up and give you some goals. And Pitti would be one of those guys. In terms of expectations, you're not buying him to immediately score 30 goals. You're buying him because he's a good player. You're buying him because you expect him to come good sooner rather than later. But that price tag also doesn't mean that he's not a human being. And all of those adjustments happen overnight just because you spent more money on it. It's tough. And I've seen questions like people have asked, is there anything the team can do to help players adjust better? I think Atlanta deals with it better than most because, and this is a lot to do with Carlos Bocanegra, coming from his experience of going to England and going to Scotland and going to Spain and going to France, and clubs who got it right and clubs who didn't, clubs who left players kind of to their own devices to figure things out as they moved to a new country, and clubs who had people there to help. I think Atlanta is very involved in helping. I think Atlanta's roster is very involved in helping. I mean, this is something that Leandro Gonzalez-Perez takes on, of his own and reaches out to players and helps them and, has the barbecues, has the asados, and has people over and wants people to be comfortable because it helps the overall group as a team. And I think it's just because Leandro's that kind of person. He's just a good guy. So, I mean, everything's in place. You just have to get in sync on the field with your teammates, and I think we've seen Pitti do a lot of that. He had a bad game at Red Bull Arena, and it seems like all those good performances are thrown away. And, again, you can't get blinded by the recent result.
Then, let's see, who else is on the board? Shiva going back to our Gressel conversation, she says, so Gressel has expressed he's tired and looked tired also. Why not just rest him with no travel? The actual travel part of the game makes players exhausted.
The travel part does. You try to balance it. You try to balance your overall group. And if he was in a better position to play, you don't want to change everybody. I mean, it would have been far riskier to play Pereira, Carlton, and Merrim together. Could it have worked out? I mean, lottery tickets sometimes come good, but it's riskier. You want to keep some continuity in there, even if it's tired continuity. Gressel's exhausted, though, and he's struggled in his last 3 matches. I thought he was ineffective off the bench in Vancouver and really didn't give you anything at Red Bull Arena or in Salt Lake City. He tried. I mean, he's putting forth an effort. He had a good ball over the top at Red Bull Arena that gave Joseph an opportunity, and he had a shot on goal early in Salt Lake, and that's about it. He just seems to step off, and he needs a break. Can you give him that on Wednesday, or is he recovered enough? And that's just where you're at. That's the schedule just puts it to where you can do one of two different things. You can give guys breaks as they get there, as they get tired, or you can do what Toronto and Orlando have done and preemptively like rest guys early in this run of games. Toronto hasn't won since, and that stands out to me. I think it was better to get the wins that you did and try to get through the rest of it, as opposed to putting games at risk early because you're mixing and matching lineups to hope that you're in sync later on. You can lose your form doing that, and I think Toronto did. And Pozuelo's been part of that. He's been pretty pedestrian as of late. So it's not easy. None of it's easy. It's the schedule that is really difficult, and so many different teams are struggling to deal with it in different ways. And that's the challenge right now when you look across the league as a whole. Who has won 4 of their last 6 in Major League Soccer? Atlanta United has. Let's see. I am scrolling down. There are not a lot of streaks going on right now, period. LAFC has not, although they haven't lost in their last 6. They've won 3 and drawn 3. Minnesota's won 3 of 6, not 4 of 6. Real Salt Lake has won 4 of 6. Red Bulls have won 4 of 6. That's it. It's very difficult. Vancouver's won 3 of 6. They've only lost 1 of their last 6. That's really good. Toronto's lost 4 of their last 5. Seattle has won 2 of their last 6, with 3 draws mixed in, 1 loss. Portland's won. Am I counting right? Yes, they've won 4 of their last 6. That was the other one. I thought there was one more. That's it. It's tough. Philly's won 3. Minnesota's won 3. LAFC's won 3. LA's lost 4 of their last 6. DC's won 2 of their last 6. Colorado Rapids have won back-to-back.
Woohoo! First 2 wins of the year.
Yeah. Columbus has lost 5 of their last 6. Cincinnati's lost 5
6 of 8?
6. Yeah, Columbus has got a lot of red L's. They have lost 6 of their last 7. Oh, can I do this right? No, even worse. They have lost 5 of their last 6. They lost 5, then they won 1, then they lost 3. It's so many L's. So they've lost 8 of their last 9. Yeah. The schedule right now in May, where it's compressed for a lot of people, it's taking its toll. You're not seeing anybody really dominate at the moment. So keep that in mind. And Atlanta has to come home and take care of 2 teams that I think they should. I mean, Minnesota, even though they've won back-to-back 1-0. They're better defensively, but they're a team that you should beat. Chicago, that's a team that you should beat. They drew with NYCFC at home on Saturday. They lost 4-1 at San Jose. They had won back-to-back before that. One was against New England as the Brad Friedel era was petering out. The other was against Minnesota. Chicago is not the same team without Nico Gaitan. He's out injured. Those are two games you should win. And even if you're tired, you've got to find ways to pick up these points because I think they're going to be critical. These points that teams are going to pick up in this last week and a half before the Gold Cup could go a long way to deciding who hosts playoff games, who gets into the playoffs. I think they're going to be really, really important. So Atlanta has back-to-back at home. They have to maximize it.
And we are officially caught up on the Twitters.
All right, let's take our final break, and we'll come back and touch on a couple other things before we finish up for the day. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Apelinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life, young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
John's ranting and raving about John Terry and Aston Villa.
Correct. Well, and didn't we get notification or alleged notification yesterday that the folks over at Qatari Sports were looking to, but was it Newcastle or Leeds?
Yeah, it was Newcastle
for $350,
which was the price tag that had been talked about for a while.
So yeah. Now does Mike Ashley sell to QSI for $350?
That is what is being reported from the Chronicle. I was trying to see if we had any recent updates of that. Let's see, from our friends over at the Chronicle in UFC on Twitter, because we got to know them pretty well during the Miguel Almiron saga.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we've got an update.
Our boy Lee Ryder.
Yeah. I did not know that at one point there was a possible takeover of Newcastle, and I'm trying to get the details on when this was. Vince McMahon was interested at one point.
No.
Or at least linked to it at one point.
I was not aware of this.
Yeah, I missed this one. The company that owned Santos Laguna at one point was reportedly linked to it, of course, to the Peter Kenyon side of things. All kinds of different folks have lined up at different points. On McMahon, and this is from the Chronicle, just in recapping all of the different people that nearly bought Newcastle over the years. Vince McMahon's come up more than once, says, and you've honestly got more chance of Newcastle turning out in red and white stripes than the WWE owner buying off Mike Ashley. Rumors first emerged in 2009 when Ashley first put the club up for sale, and they emerged multiple times since then. So really no detail to it. But in terms of the current one, it is the brother of the Manchester City owner that has been linked to Newcastle. Abu Dhabi billionaire Sheikh Khalid bin Zayed Al Nahyan held talks with Newcastle about a possible takeover of the club. So that's where it's at. We'll see if Newcastle gets purchased and what that might do with Rafa Benitez and his future. Newcastle United sources have confirmed the interest is where you're at this point on it. That's the.
And who was tied to Leeds?
I don't remember who was tied to Leeds. I can't keep up with it. Leeds, I think, was actually the PSG ownership.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to get my consortiums from straight.
Yes. The claims yesterday about Newcastle were £350 million with contracts in place with the Premier League. So that is the last of it. Chris Waugh, who's another reporter who covers Newcastle, said that my understanding is that there are at least two other groups who have been in talks with Newcastle United with varying degrees of progress. We've reported over the last few weeks that there is certainly interest in buying Newcastle. So maybe there's a bit of competition here, and maybe this one popped out because, here's the number. It's not official, but, if you want to buy Newcastle, you're going to have to hit this number at least. So there you go. Keep an eye on that one. Other stuff from the weekend that I wanted to touch on before we go. Rumors popped up about Flavio Augusto da Silva, who is the Orlando City owner. And in 2022, he's going to turn 50 years old. And he has said that he will shift his personal focus to philanthropy at that time. He might sell the team at that time. He says he is constantly being sought out by investors. He sold parts of it. He has 79% of the club. Remember, last year he sold 10% of the club for around $70-something million, which valued the overall club at just under $500 million. I think Forbes had it at about $300 million. And De Silva has said consistently that, it's being constantly undervalued. Like the actual valuations of Major League Soccer clubs are far higher, and the fact that he was able to get what he got for the percentage that he sold would lead you to believe that. So keep an eye on Orlando City. He might not sell it. He might just step away from the club and being as involved. He might sell part of it. He might sell his whole 79%. Who knows? But 2022, he's going to start shifting more to philanthropy and less with day-to-day at Orlando City. Yesterday, Sunderland came up short in their promotion playoff to get into the championship. Lyndon Gooch, who has played with the U.S. men's national team, is part of the Sunderland squad, and now he is being linked to the New England Revolution. You would think that if they had gotten up to the championship, they might not have been willing to make the move. Maybe now they would be willing to make that move, and maybe he wants to go. He'd be a great fit for the Revolution, and he would kind of fit the profile, I think, of a guy that Bruce Arena would want to bring into that team. So kind of checks all the boxes. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I'd love to see him back on this side of things. And when I looked in the notes and it said Lyndon Gooch, the first thing that popped into my head was, okay, Bruce Arena, Lyndon Gooch, get that. So, if he comes over and he's part of the Revs, that's a great first pickup, I think, for Bruce Arena as he's trying to get things all squared away.
You've got Aston Villa and Derby County right now. Villa's up 1-0 at the break, and you also have the rumors popping up about Maurizio Sarri going to Juventus, which has been going on for a little while, but now it's getting a little more heat, and Frank Lampard replacing him at Chelsea. So how crazy would that be if Lampard gets Derby into the Premier League, but then leaves to go to Chelsea?
Oh, the irony of the Premier League and the Football League in general.
Pretty much. Let's talk about the U.S. women as well. They had their final match in the send-off series yesterday against Mexico. 26,332 at Red Bull Arena. So people can get there. They can show up. And, hey, the tarps were gone.
Who knew?
I thought they were doing construction. No. I knew they were doing construction. That's what they said.
Yeah.
But they took the tarps off and sold the tarps.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, 26,332. Great crowd. Kind of quiet because it was kind of a quiet game. First half, you get the goal off a mistake from the goalkeeper and center back, and Tobin Heath puts it away. It didn't look good in the attack, and Megan Rapinoe talked about it afterwards. They have to have more patience in the final third. Kristen Press, I think, demonstrated that with her goal, which was an outstanding individual effort where she was able to take a touch, have some patience at the top of the 18, and create a good chance for herself. They didn't look great. They looked, in some ways, just tired and worn out. It was hot yesterday. I think also they're kind of tired and worn out from all of the media, all of the things that go into the send-off series. I mean, when they did the whole thing at the end of the match and they were introducing each of the individual players, like so many of them just looked like, I want to go eat. I want to go sit down. I'm done. I'm exhausted. Let's go to Europe and get ready for this World Cup. And that was something a lot of them talked about afterwards, was they're just happy to be able to go to training now, not have to deal with media all the time and all of the stuff that goes into the send-off series. So they're headed to train at Tottenham Hotspur's training ground before they go to France and start the tournament. I've been worried about the schedule, and I thought Jill Ellis broke it down really well. I mean, the way everything worked out, if you're going to do a send-off series, which, you know, sponsors, financial, all of it, you're going to do, you're not going to be able to get great competition because everybody's already in Europe training. They're training camps. So you're getting teams that either are on their way to Europe for the World Cup or teams that didn't qualify. So you're not getting great competition. You haven't really been tested since the She Believes Cup. Well, since the Australia match after that. Then you're going into your first two group games where you're not really going to be tested against Thailand and Chile, and then you're thrown into the gauntlet with Sweden and then knockouts. That's tough. And I don't think they look that great right now going into it, and they're not going to get tested to get better. It's going to have to come from inside the group. It's going to have to be internal, and that's difficult. But it's a veteran team. It's an experienced team, and if there's a team who can do it, you would think that it's them. But, man, all the talk is that they're the favorite. I don't know if that's the case. I think France is the favorite.
For me, I've, and I understand host broadcaster in the home country. I understand that. But the verbiage that had come out in a couple of the TV ads about when David takes on Goliath, David has no chance, with the Goliath being assumed that it's the United States. And you're going, I don't know if they're that much of a Goliath, You got either a lot of different Goliaths or a lot of different Davids, because I don't see, to your point, I don't see the United States as the prohibitive favorite and then everybody else. But I understand the notion of what host broadcasters are trying to do. But it's all right. That's what you want to do. But yeah, I didn't see it either.
Yeah, it's a little much. I mean, you're setting up an expectation that I think is going to be difficult to hit, because both the U.S. and Sweden should win their first two games. Then you get to game 3. If you win the group, you have a round of 16 match against a third-place team. And if the other groups go the way you expect, you're going to see France in the quarterfinal in Paris. That's okay. If you look at it and you're like, well, we don't want to win the group. We're not going to throw the game, but we don't want to win the group. We're going to rotate everybody. We're going to do everything possible to not win the group. It happens. Well, then you're going to be in a tricky round of 16 game possibly against the European champions, the Netherlands, one of the up-and-coming teams that could surprise you. And then your quarterfinal would likely be against Germany, who is one of the favorites. There's no good path. Like, that's the thing, is there's no good path here. And I just worry about them hitting their top stride. I just worry about the preparation and the way they've looked. And, you know, yesterday you saw Tobin Heath play left back in the second half. Yeah, it gives you something different. But she's the last player I would want to see there. It still seems like there's questions about, well, can we get Crystal Dunn further forward? Well, yes, but you're going to have to sit somebody. Well, we don't want to sit Rapinoe or Morgan or Heath or Horan or Lavelle. That's your front five. All right, then you're going to have Dunn attacking as a left back, and it can be done, and she's been effective there, and yeah, you can do it, but there's going to be times in games you're going to have the tactical flexibility to push Dunn forward and play three in the back with Julie Ertz sitting in front, and you could get really disjointed that way. I don't know if the tactical identities of this team are truly established, and that's what scares me. Is Plan A seems nice. I don't know what Plan B is with the same starters, and I don't know what Plan B is if you have to move Julie Ertz to the back line because you don't really have another six. I don't know what the Plan B is if you have to move Crystal Dunn further forward because Tierna Davidson would be your other left back. That's a big ask for her at her first World Cup. There's a lot of questions about, well, if Plan A doesn't work, what do you do? I don't think there's really many answers. So it's going to be one of those things, kind of like 2015, where you hope that you get it right in the moment because I don't know if there's an obvious alternative. And who knows? Maybe it is that perfect storm that happened in 2015, but, man, that's asking for a lot. So we will see once we get into it. I think the U.S. are among the favorites, for sure. Can the U.S. beat France? Yes. Can they beat the Netherlands or Germany if that happens? Yes, they can. It's going to be difficult, though. And I think this tournament is going to be the most difficult Women's World Cup that we've ever seen. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. U20s have been good as well. And the U.S. plays at 2:30 today. You can check that one out on FS1. You can also watch Atlanta United's U14s in the Manchester City Cup final against our friends from Monterrey, Rayados. That's at 3 o'clock, and that's on ESPN Plus and Univision Deportes. And now it is story time with John as we wrap up.
Story time with John. And when I got up this morning, it was trying to figure out the best way to remind everyone about today. And, a lot of folks have thought of this as an extra day in a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend in some points like that. But I was trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. So I just decided to go full story time. My grandfather was OSS, Army Air Corps, Battle of Britain, invasion of North Africa. And there were two stories that he would always tell. One was when he was in North Africa with his buddies. And one day he's with another buddy of his. And they notice that a cargo ship had come in and that they had dropped off a bunch of Jeeps. My grandfather and his friend needed transportation, but they were not on the list to get said Jeeps that had just come off the cargo ship. And guarding all of these Jeeps was a buck private. I mean, this was a kid who was probably 16, said he was 18, but he was there, and he was guarding all of the cargo that had just come off. My grandfather was a bird colonel, youngest at the time to achieve the rank, but because he told people what he always thought, he was always going to be the youngest ever to be bird colonel at the time, never going to go any higher. Knew Jimmy Doolittle, thought that Ike left a lot to be desired, had a tremendous amount of respect for General Patton and thought that we should have invaded Russia when we had the chance. So he sees the Jeep and he starts pointing at it, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Hey, Private, this is my Jeep right here." And so, of course, what's this kid going to do? He's not going to turn down a bird colonel who is sitting there and saying that this is a Jeep, even though he doesn't have any paperwork or proof. So he says, "Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Take the Jeep." And his buddy does the same thing. "Hey, this is my Jeep. Yes, sir, yes, sir." So they take the two Jeeps away in North Africa. They go riding. They take the full tank of gas. They take it as best they can. Then they just abandon the Jeep. That's one story that he tells. The other story is when he was involved in the Battle of Britain. And what the Germans used to do is they would jam all of the frequencies that the Allies would use when it came to just letting everybody know what was going on, okay, who's coming in, all this kind of stuff. So my grandfather tells the story of coming in on a plane, and the Germans literally say on those Allied frequencies, so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so, naming all the battalions, naming all the groups that were coming in, welcoming them to Britain, and we will be seeing you very soon. Those were the only two stories that he told. Didn't get into any other details, but it was because of those two stories that we always wanted to know more. And one of the things that we forgot to do was get my grandfather's stories on tape, good or bad. Never wanted to tell the bad stories, always told the good stories. Wanted to be involved in Korea. And instead, because he was in his 40s at the time, he was at the Arnold Engineering Development Center up in Tullahoma, Tennessee, the wind tunnels. So that was where he spent his time with the Korean War. Wanted to be involved in Vietnam, but because he was in his late 50s, there was no chance. So you look at that greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw tells us. And I think that a lot of today, I think some of us kind of lose the perspective as to what this whole thing means and then what this whole Memorial Day is about. I think that you look at what Pete Dupre did yesterday in Harrison, New Jersey, 96 years young, and just belts out the national anthem on a harmonica. For every Pete Dupre, there is someone who's like my grandfather, who met my grandmother, who was an Army nurse at then Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, married just shy of 50 years. The one thing that I would ask about today, remember everyone who has served, is serving, has graduated, and will serve. Because for every one of those individuals, and I'm sure that we know those who have served, for every Nicolifi who has served, we are grateful. For every Cody Queen down at ESPN Coastal who still has shrapnel in his body from the time he served, we're grateful. For everyone from that greatest generation that seems to be fading away with time, sadly, we're grateful. And it's knowing those individuals, being around those individuals, being grateful for what they've done to keep this country the greatest experiment on this or any other planet when it comes to being a constitutional republic. Show the support. Say a thank you. When you see the stars and bars, take a second. Remember the ties to the past. Because if we treat it like we did in my family and failed to remember the stories of my grandfather and get him to tell all the others, we lose them. Don't lose the meaning of today. And that's story time with John.
Yeah, I think everybody's got, a personal touch on a day like today. Mine would be my uncle that passed away. Wow, it would have been 33 years before I was born. He lost his life in Italy during World War II, and he is buried at a U.S. cemetery. I think it's outside of Florence, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, I just know the story about my Uncle Wayne. And I think everybody has somebody in their life that they knew, or somebody in their family or friends, and that's what today is. I think sometimes that does get lost. I'm totally with you on that. It gets lost in the shuffle with all the craziness that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis, but this is a day to remember those things.
And don't just let it be today, even though today is usually front and center. And there are usually a couple of days a year where I will wear Stars and Bars clothing. It's usually today, July 4th. My grandfather passed away a month to the day before my 30th birthday. And he is buried here in town in SDH HQ, the top of the hill, where with his wife, he can see from one end of the skyline to the other. You can see from Mercedes-Benz all the way to Buckhead when you're looking in the fall. And I just perspective today is the biggest thing for me, and just remember it and pay it forward. Those are my only requests.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow as we start to get ready for a 2-match week after a lot of these. It's another one. Wednesday at the Benz. We will be there with a tailgate show presented by Apollinsky and Associates, but also our friend Ricky Bevington will be there with GPB. Is she doing her whole show there from the Gulch?
Yeah, she's doing her whole show. It's going to be... I think she's 4 to 6.
I couldn't remember the times. I think that's right. I thought it was 4 for the start.
Yeah, so, I think it's 4 to 6, and it's I think it's Kelly. I think it's Jessica from Soccer in the Streets. More unrelegated. She's going to have, I think, some Tormenta representation there as well. So it's going to be a soccer palooza with Ricky Bevington.
So that's your headliner for the tailgate on Wednesday. We will be with you for a preview show on Twitter at Soccer Down here ahead of that one, and we will also have a tailgate show on Saturday, which will be competing with the Champions League final, which, kind of a big deal. Just saying. Just
I've heard
game. It's a big week, a busy week. Again, don't forget about the US U20s today in a big match after their first loss against Ukraine. They play Nigeria this afternoon at 2:30 on FS1, and Atlanta United's U14s against Rayados in the Manchester City Cup. That's at 3 o'clock. ESPN Plus for English language, Univision Deportes for Spanish language. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about all of it. Have a good one, y'all. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha Memorial Day, y'all.